this is the video for the first part of 1.6, solving linear inequalities. So linear just means that the variable will be to the first degree. So you can solve it straightforward. So let's first talk about an inequality. An inequality, rather than an equality, would have an equal sign. An inequality has like a less than, or a greater than. Right? So we might say like 2 is less than 3, or maybe we'd say -1 is greater than -10. Right? Both of those are true statements. And the properties of inequality are that we can add or subtract anything to both sides and it will stay, right? So 2 is less than 3. If I add 5 to both sides, I would have 7 is less than 8, and that's still true. I can subtract. That works out fine. I can multiply by a positive number. Let's look at this one over here. If we multiplied by 3 on both sides, I'd have -3 is greater than -30. That's still true. That still works. Okay. The time that it doesn't work is if I multiply by a negative number. So say I multiply by -2 on both sides over here. Oops, that 2 didn't look very good. I'd have -4, -6, and now -4 is not less than -6. It's greater than. And it turns out we can always just switch the sign. So if I multiply this one by -5, so I'd have +5, I'd have +50. Obviously, I had to switch the sign, right? And it's going to turn out that always when we multiply or divide by a negative, we can just flip that inequality and still have, and then we'll have a true statement if it's flipped. Okay, so here are the things to remember when we're solving. You change the direction of the inequality whenever you multiply or divide by a negative number. But that means you can never multiply or divide by a variable because you won't know. Is it positive? Is it negative? I don't know. I don't know whether to switch or not. So we just never do it. Never multiply or divide by a variable. That'll be more important in the next video. Okay, so let's try some problems. And I'm just going to suggest, as I do these problems on here, you might try just pausing the video and seeing if you can do it, and then I'll work it out and you'll be able to see if you did it. I'll do 3 or 4 problems, and then I'll give you a problem that you'll do for the quiz on Canvas. Okay, so here we have this. We really do want the x on the left in order for us to think about it better. We really do better when the x is on the left. So I'm just going to get the x over to the left. And then I have to divide by -2, which means I have to change it to greater than. So I have x is less than -2. If you're thinking about the number line, that'd be -2. I'm looking for everything up here. I'm not including -2, so it's going to be a parentheses. So my answer would be written in interval notation, looking like this. Okay, there's my answer. Okay, let's try one with a greater than. Plus 7 greater than or equal to 5 minus 6x. Okay, now try it out, see if you can do it. If I add 6x to both sides, and I can subtract 7 from both sides. Okay, I get 7x is greater than or equal to -2. Divide by 7. It's a positive number, so it stays the same. It's okay if it's a fraction. all I really care is that there's where negative 2 over 7 would be. I want greater, so I want everything up here. It's okay if it's equal, so I'm going to use a bracket, and my answer would be negative 2/7 up to infinity. Okay, and that would be how I would write my answer. Okay, let's try one. Well, let's try a compound one. Whoops. It's possible to have two inequalities in the same thing. And really, this is kind of a combination, right? It has to be true. This inequality has to be true. This inequality has to be true. And this also has to be true. We can only do it if these two are both going in the same direction. So these are both less than. So that means 6 is less than 2x plus 5. 2x plus 5 is also less than 10. And 6 has to be less than 10. Okay, if those three things are not all true, then I can't do it as all-in-one inequality. Okay, so since it's true that I can do the same thing to all three parts. So I can subtract negative 5 from all three places. So I end up with this inequality, and then I can divide by 2 in all three places. Okay, so I end up with 1/2 less than or equal to x less than 5/2. Okay, that's solved, and if I look at this on the number line, there's 1/2, there's 5/2. I want things, x is going to be bigger than 1/2. 1/2 is less than it, right? But it's also less than 5/2. That means it's in between. Okay, this one has an equal sign, and this one does not. So my answer would look like this. I don't know why it likes to put that line there. Don't include that one. So that is how my answer would look. Alright, so sometimes you may have to do a little bit more work before you can start combining, right? So see if you can figure out how to do this one. Notice that this parenthesis over here means I can't add the x's together. So before I go adding things to both sides, I have to get rid of these parentheses. So I would distribute. So then I can go ahead and get the x's together, get the numbers on the other side together. This is going to be a -4. When I divide by -2, I have to flip this to less than. Alright, so looking at that number line, if here's 2, I want less, so it's going to be down here, right? And it's not going to be included. So my answer would be -infinity to 2, don't include it. So that is how my answer would look. Okay, so here is the quiz question. So you should write this down, solve it, get onto Canvas, and enter it into that quiz question, right? It's not included on Canvas. You have to get it from the video. So write it down now, and then you can go in whenever you want and answer all those questions on the quiz. All right, thanks.